Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, Reeling in Holistic Health, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I'm your host, Coach Rice, and I want to make sure that you tune in every Monday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where I have my special guest on to talk about real issues that matter most. I want you to check us out on YouTube, Facebook Live, on Business Facebook page, also on the Be Awesome Network. Stay tuned. I think you're going to really like this next guest.
Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice. It's a brand new week, the sun's shining bright, a chance to cast your net, step into the light. Life's full of challenges, it's a winding stream, but with Coach Rice, you'll find your dream.
Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, where we care about your mental health and well-being. I am your host, Coach Rice, and with me today, I have a special guest, Crystal Griffith. She is the go-to strategist and soul guide for medical mom warriors, a Jesus-loving sweet tea drinker, two-time best-selling author, speaker, certified heart healing and business coach. She helps moms of medically complex children move from overwhelmed to thriving. Let's dive deep into our conversation with her this morning so you can get a chance to get to meet her. Crystal, tell us, where are you from and how did you embark upon this journey?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having me. I'm very excited to be here, as I am currently in a medical mom warrior crisis with my own child and maybe moving soon because of it. We spent about 20 years out in Colorado where my kiddo was made, created, and had. Spent a lovely time in the Rockies, just enjoyed that duration and season of time. Moved to the East Coast just about a year ago. And chaos hit, and so we are realizing that my kiddo may be allergic to where we are. And so, you know, and to answer your question, that's exactly how we got here. Kiddo has been struggling her entire life with a number of different diagnoses, ranging from food allergies to actually skin places that have been removed, as well as rare immunology issues, as well as also a more rare diagnosis of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue issue. And none of which, I wish we'd had the playbook when she was born saying, hey, deal with all these things all at the same time. It might have worked, but we get this one and then we go a little further, we get this one, and then you're like, oh, I wish I had known the first three before we just got that one, because that would have explained so many things of what we were dealing with.
So you call moms like yourself medical mom warriors. Can you share, what does that mean to you and why you chose that word warrior?
I find a couple of different fronts to that. First of all, I'm a medical mom. I am in the medical space. I'm a mom, and we have our own community, so to speak. Like when we see another medical mom in the waiting room, there's just an instant connection. We get it because we have been there and no explanation is necessary. But then that warrior part comes about because we have to be on the front lines. We are the first line of defense for our kids. We are the advocates for our kids, especially when they can't speak for themselves. And for my kiddo, she's actually deaf, hard of hearing as part of what she has experienced along the way. And we just had another inpatient stay. And we actually had one doctor come in. The machine never works in the hospitals that gives you ASL, American Sign Language interpreting. And so they looked at me and said, well, you're here. Can't you interpret? That's a hard line no. God bless you. Love that you think that I could, but the reality is that's taking away her voice. And you guys need to provide the tools necessary for her to be an empowered patient. What we are is on the offense, where we are coming in, and the proactiveness to say, before we even get there, hey, do you have the interpreter lined up yet? So for example, yesterday we had 2 different medical appointments, and I looked at my daughter and I'm like, you need to call and make sure that they see it in your chart, because 9 times out of 10, they're oblivious, no matter how large that print is, no matter what color that print is. And we get there and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, although it's in her chart 89 times. And so she called and reminded them, hey, I'm going to need that interpreter. So that's empowering her to advocate for herself as well. There's a relief as a warrior mom when you can see your child succeeding in those capacities, and she's growing. She's 20 years old. She would love to be out on her own. I would love for her to be out on her own, but we both need to know that she'll be safe and she's at a place that she can speak up and be heard.
With your daughter having 25 diagnoses, which is quite a bit, what was the moment you realized you had to become her strongest advocate?
That's a good question, because I think mine actually started before I had her, of realizing I actually had a car accident way back yonder and had massive headaches. And 30 years ago, they would just literally pat you on the leg and go home and sleep it off. Although I had a subdural hematoma on the MRI, I had internal bleeding, and they would, you're fine. It's just a little headache. Go take some Tylenol. And you're just like, I don't think we are on the same page here. So for myself, I had 48 doctors trying to handle the issue because at one point I couldn't have even told you my name. So my advocacy piece came about inadvertently, learning to research for myself before the internet was what we have today, and identifying backs of magazines like, oh, we're looking for people in these trials of this issue, and getting involved in some of those opportunities and experimental trials to try and help myself. So that advocacy piece really grew some legs and some depth because of my own trials. And then I had 10 years of infertility. And so my kiddo is literally a living miracle. And they told me I would never have kids. One, because of this car accident, I could have stroked out. But 2, I had so much scar tissue in both my tubes, there was no way I was going to be able to have a kid. So the fact that I have her is just a living miracle. And when she came along, I was considered high risk because of my age. I was also overweight. So a number of things there. But when I was pregnant with her, we were going, as you get closer to time, going to see the midwife multiple times during the week. And they thought they were feeling both feet. Oh, she's already turned. We're at 30 weeks and she's already flipped. Well, my kiddo has always had a mind of her own. So she was doing the splits in utero for about 10 weeks. So I was going to have a C-section. So when she did come out, she's a little bit jaundiced. So we weren't thinking there was a big issue there. We were a little concerned about her hips because she had been splits for so long. Like, what was that going to do to her hips? But when she came out, they felt like she was still okay. There wasn't anything that they needed to follow up on that. It wasn't really until she was 9 months that we really began to question some things. Now, in hindsight, at 4 months, she had her first double ear infection. And knowing now, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Knowing now, I wish we had felt differently, done differently back then, what we didn't know, right?
Right.
And I want to encourage your audience, because you're making decisions with the awareness that you have in the moment.
Exactly.
You can't change the past. You can say, oh, I wish I had known. But for me, that's now going on shows like yours to say, hey, you can't live back there, but look at all the knowledge that you've gained. Now go share it. Go share it.
Exactly.
So somebody else can be in that moment and think of all those questions you wish you had known, right? Because we have to walk in self-forgiveness, because you are doing the best that you can as a medical mom warrior. You are inundated by new information. And for most medical mom warriors, they have one main thing to deal with, horrible situations like cancer or cerebral
Yes.
palsy or MS or, a variety of things. Name the diagnosis, right? For my kiddo, God bless her, I have 25 of those circles.
Right.
And they all overlap. You move into another level of medical complexity to where they have more than one major diagnosis. So
Okay.
my kiddo has autism, Ehlers-Danlos, celiac. Those are big three right now. And she's deaf, hard of hearing. And so when you think through those, how do we really come across strongly as an advocate? Because now you're inundated with 25 of those circles, all of the medical complexities. And the reality is there's no doctor that serves as a case manager. And
Right.
we need a healthcare overhaul that sees this as a person, not a diagnosis. Because man, when we could get to that place and we have a team that says, okay, here's the kid, here's everything that's going on with this child, and how do we cross-reference? How do we collaborate? You're going to get an entirely different approach to serving that child or an adult even. So when all of that began to unfold for us with my kiddo, mainly at 9 months when she had her first anaphylactic reaction to a food, I just saw the writing on the wall and pulled out those advocacy skills and went, oh, okay, now we're going to have to go to town. She was 6. She was diagnosed with celiac. And that really changed the trajectory because that is a diagnosis that actually involves several systems, not just your gut. And it involves your teeth. Most people don't know that. It can involve actually your systemic to how you're absorbing nutrients and vitamins, as well as bathroom habits and, just a variety of things, which then affects your bones and levels. And so as we move through another major diagnosis, I began to share more stories, just like I mentioned to you. Other people began to get diagnosed because I was suggesting, hey, have you considered getting a celiac test, right? Now it's so easy to get diagnosed with celiac because it's a blood test. Back then, you had your gold standard, which was an EDG, a scope down your throat, taking biopsies and testing for those things. So now it's super easy. If anybody has blood drawn, tell them you want a celiac test. It might surprise you with the results. And so when you're walking through those situations, you really do have to create better understanding, better organization, better talking to the doctors, trying to identify, do I want all of her team basically at one hospital group, or do I need to spread them out? And in Colorado, they were just really getting Children's of Colorado going statewide when she came along. So we were driving 45 minutes to Denver often, and we were trying to piece together those people outside of Children's because we lived so far away.
Right.
So team is the way to go. Putting that team together.
Right. Putting that team together. Right. So as a, medical mom, I'm hearing what you're saying. It has to be overwhelming. And how do you ever feel unseen and isolated dealing with all this, dealing with a lot of the medical doctors that you have to deal with because you got to deal with so many, at different times? Do you ever feel unseen and isolated?
Isolation is one of the number one issues for medical moms.
Okay.
They lose their friends because they have to cancel on things all the time. They can make plans, but then when the child's sick, that's the priority. And people who constantly are canceled on honestly feel rejection of their own. And so they don't even bother to try, so to speak. So that becomes definitely a big issue. And then you have the isolation of financial components. Because we are so desperate to keep our children alive, we are in debt to use as many holistic things as possible, because oftentimes our kids are often allergic to many of the products and things that Western medicine wants to use. And there are times you have to use them no matter what. We are actually being faced with one of those situations right now where she may have to go into an ICU to be given a very specific antibiotic that she's anaphylactic to. So we may not have a choice. So we're doing everything that we can financially and buying the tools that we can holistically to help serve, but they don't cover all the time. So then you have the financial ramification of medical moms and medical families. And then you also, I want to pull in the isolation for the siblings. Now, my kiddo was an only child. It's as if I have 5, but we'll just lay that one down right now. And so but many families have other siblings. Well, now those siblings have to really filter through, is it always about the sick child and their sibling? When do they get seen? They're often looked through. Their events are often dictated by whether the family can get there because of what's going on with the other child. And that creates a whole nother dynamic.
A whole nother dynamic. Yes, it is. Whole nother dynamic.
And then you also have the amount of marriages that end in divorce, mainly because there is a special needs child. The mother ends up being primary caretaker. And I was working part-time behind the scenes as I could. I am now divorced. And I can tell you there were moments where my child is in a hospital and he would drive right by the hospital to get to work and to get home and not stop in to see his kid who had surgery. So there are a number of isolating events that happen for medical mom warriors. But to your overwhelm question, it would be very easy to be overwhelmed. And that's not to say that we aren't at times.
Right.
For me, my faith comes into play. That is my foundation. If I don't have Jesus, I'm in big trouble because I don't have the answers. I can't tell you why my kid's not getting well sometimes. I can't tell you, like right now, we have moved to the East Coast to support my family. My dad received a diagnosis and, my parents are aging. They're in their mid-70s. And I wanted my child to be able to be by her grandparents. And now finding out she's kind of allergic to the environment kind of puts a spin on things. And so we are now looking at where can we move to still be accessible to support them. Because as a caregiver, there's really 3 types of caregivers. You are a caregiver as a child, like your child is sick. And I would say / loved one. You are sick. And then, right? Or your parents are sick. Like those are the big 3.
Right.
I have all 3 going all the time. Super fun.
Oh, Lord.
And so, I got to tell you, here's a good story for your family, for your audience. So the day that we had a 2-for-1 to the ER, I'm like, I had a little bite to lunch and I'm like, my back is like really hurting. What is happening? And I thought I just slept wrong because I've had my back go out a couple of times. I have something called spinal stenosis. So I'm like, man, maybe I just need to go to the chiropractor and see what's going on. And she went upstairs and she had something going on herself. So I'm like, okay, go upstairs, get a couple things together. When we go to the ER, it's a whole event. Like you have to bring food. She's allergic to their food. You have to make sure she's got the love spectrum. Yeah, it's a whole event. Like, go get your to-go bag ready. I just need to sit here for a minute. Well, in the 5 minutes maybe that she was upstairs putting her bag together, I can't be still. The pain is just like increasing and increasing. I get on the couch. I'm withering around. I'm like starting to just moan. I can't help it. And I'm like, what is happening? And so I'm like, maybe I just need to go to the bathroom, right? So I go to the bathroom and I start yelling in pain. I'm like, what is happening? I have managed to scare my child bad enough that she calls my sister, who happens to be local here. and her oldest son is an EMT with the fire department. And she's trying to explain, Mom's screaming in pain. I don't think I've ever seen her do this before. And I got this other thing happening, and she was about to take me to the ER. So they show up, and I can't stop screaming at this point. And I'm not trying to. Like, I don't know what this is. So they take us into the ER, and I'm like, I'm freaking out now because I'm a patient, my kid's a patient, and no, my family really doesn't understand just yet what this looks like for my kid to be a patient because we've been away from them.
Right.
And I'm like, you got to have her cheat sheet. We have a medical cheat sheet with all her diagnoses, her allergies, what she's had done. And we're in a new medical system because we just moved here. So nobody knows my kid.
Wow.
And so I'm trying to process those things of how to handle the issue while I'm also screaming in pain. Yeah, I had 2 kidney stones. I've
never had that, but I heard that is painful.
Never had one in my entire life.
Wow.
It was the craziest thing. And she had something happening, and so it was insane. So fortunately, about a week later, and we had them on the screen and all, I had a 7 millimeter that requires surgery, and I had a 2 millimeter. And I'm like, I don't think you guys understand. I need you to handle this because I'm getting on a boat, and I need that boat. Because my kid has care for a week. This is me advocating for myself at that point, right? I'm
so like, that's your self-care, right?
I'm like, we are not having surgery and missing this trip. So go ahead and do what you need to do. And he's like, oh, we can't do that. It's like a 6-week recovery process. I'm like, okay, then we're gonna have to speak to those stones, and they got to get healed. They got to fall out, or they got to do something because I'm getting on a boat. I don't think you understand. I'm getting on a boat. And I naively got on a boat and came back.
And you were determined to take that trip.
I was going on a boat. It was in the British Virgin Islands. You would have been determined to take that too. And
as a caregiver, I would have been determined to take that trip.
There's very short windows as a caregiver.
Short window, yes.
You gotta take it, right? You gotta take it. So when I came back, the next day I went in to get a brand new x-ray to make sure, where are we, and then schedule the surgery. Fortunately, I didn't have any issues on the boat at all. No pain. Like the only pain I had was the day I went to the ER. I never had any pain after that. And so when they took the x-ray, when I got back from my trip, they were completely gone.
Wow.
Totally healed. Gone.
What a miracle.
Totally was. Totally was. Because who's got time for 6 weeks of recovery, right? As a caregiver. Yeah. It was totally a God thing. It was totally a God thing.
Wow. This has been a true journey for you, journey/calling for you. How has it reshaped, if any, your identity?
Well, my identity for me is in Christ. So
unmovable, unshakable.
That hasn't changed. Now, labels, being a medical mom was not one I ever, went to college to say I wanted to be. And it has been interesting to see how God has used all the gifts he has prepared me for and with along the way to be a researcher, even on my own stuff, and now to research hers, and now to help others research theirs. I'm putting together right now, actually, an AI workshop attached to medical. So it's AI and medical trauma. So I can teach others how to leverage some of the technology that we have now to gain better traction and create better conversations with the doctors, because we need to make sure that we're thinking outside the box for the questions that we need to be asking them. So for example, when we were going up to another appointment yesterday, I had my daughter get her chat GPT out. And I'm like, okay, put in this, and this, send this to the vault, pull this out, and it's prompts that you set up using your chat GPT that we had already done some work around for her. And I said, now tell it to make a list of 10 questions that we need to ask this particular doctor based on all these parameters. Out it came. And it was
Yes.
brilliant.
So amazing, right?
It was. And so if we could empower other medical moms, other patients who are chronically ill, other caregivers of their parents, in how to use the technology that's available to us. For me, and I'm a techie, I taught tech for 30 years at the higher ed level. I have always found ways to leverage it, not to give it the power, but to use it for good.
Okay.
Now, could you go down rabbit holes? Absolutely, right? And the reality is my kiddo's lifespan looks radically different than anybody else's because of all of the things that she has in her life. And so she could go down a rabbit hole pretty quickly on
Mhm.
ChatGPT. So we need to mind our boundaries around those things. And we need to remember ChatGPT, the DSM-5, the PubMeds, they don't have the last say on when your last days are.
No,
And they don't.
nobody
And
can put a tag on your foot.
exactly. And the key is if you are breathing, you have purpose. If you're
Yes.
breathing, you have a gift and call that you're supposed to use. And how can we empower you to use it? And that's what I love working with my families on, because many families are overwhelmed and they are isolated and they are up to their eyeballs in just survival mode. And I want to show them how to live in hope, to realize that, hey, you can even have 25 diagnoses and be caregiving for this and this and this and yourself, and you can still have hope and you can still have a smile on your face.
Yes.
And you are going to get through it. It's not
So
the
I
last.
want to shift to your business. Tell the audience, how do you, because you're a certified heart healing practitioner, an advocate, for your daughter. How do you, medical mom warrior, tell us, how do you integrate all of that into your business?
Well, at first, I was actually doing the coaching for other medical mom warriors. And what I was seeing was that's not what they needed. What they
Okay.
really need is heart healing around the medical trauma piece.
I'm sure.
They're hurting, and these expectations that they had of their, you have this baby and okay, now we're going to raise it for 18 years and then it'll go to college or trade school and then it'll, find its career and then the baby will, grow up and get married and have its own kids and replicate. Like that is the typical timeline of what we are taught throughout our whole life. But the reality for our medical kiddos, that is not the same. And for us as parents, we have to grieve those expectations.
You have to grieve that.
And it's hard.
Grieving the child that you thought you were going to have.
Correct.
And embrace the child that you actually have.
Absolutely. Perfect way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And those moments, I want to be mindful of how to say this. That is not denying you the child that you have. You love that
right,
child.
It's not. Mm-mm.
You would lay down your life for that child. I would give a kidney. I would give a liver. I would, whatever my kid needs.
You do it every day.
I'll do it. Exactly. I will sacrifice for my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we understand that we do still need to grieve those expectations, I try to teach this in a way so they understand if you can go ahead and grieve it because you're aware that it exists now, you can heal it. And guess what that does? It frees up that space for God to just pour new in. And that can
to accept your new norm.
Right. And what is normal anyways? Let's be
exactly.
Real. There's not one person on this planet that has normal.
Nobody can give you an actual definition, except the dictionary that keeps it in this box. But really, what is normal?
Exactly. right. And so then it becomes an opportunity. I love to see things as opportunities. I'm always looking for solutions. As I often tell my daughter, well, if you're looking for an issue, you're going to find issues. If you're looking for solutions, you're going to find solutions. And that's about our perspective, our filtering. So yes, currently we have a situation with my kiddo where she's growing a super rare bacteria that 6 antibiotics haven't tested or haven't touched yet. Okay, so what's our solution? How do we look outside the box to find other options? Well, yesterday we had this amazing conversation with the new ENT, and he was willing to think outside the box. He goes, oh, so she's a unicorn. We're like, oh, yes, with about 3 horns. Yes, she is. And so he could see she wasn't going to fit this box, this textbook, this tradition, the stereotype, right? She is going to be her own person, and you are going to have to see her versus what you think she should be, because she's never going to be that. And so when I could show the medical mom warriors and those families to lay down those expectations of what you think should be, then you make room for what could be and what God has intended and planned already with the solutions that are already available. You know, a great story is Alonzo's Oil, and maybe you've seen that movie. It's an older 80s movie. And it was based on a little boy who kept having these seizures that nothing was working for. And his dad went to bat for him and figured out with another scientist, this particular oil, which is a derivative of a plant, it cured these seizures. And I say curative very loosely there, but the seizure stopped. Now, he was never 100%, but he did have a much better quality of life because he wasn't having those seizures. And so that oil is now globally used. So when you could get outside the box and begin to look at those opportunities, not only could your solution work for you or your child or your loved one, it could be a solution that helps millions. And that's powerful.
Yeah, because it does create space for other people, right? So as many medical moms, I'm sure neglect their own health. How do you, as a medical mom, and prioritize your well-being? Because I'm sure you have a team for yourself. And I say that as a caregiver myself. I was a caregiver for my mom, and that's nothing compared to what you're dealing with right now. But I had to have some help. How do you, manage your own personal well-being going through and being an advocate for your daughter?
First of all, I want to say thank you for taking care of your mom, because often as caregivers, you're not thanked. And it is something that you do truly out of love. And I just want to tell you, thank you for taking care of your mom. Second of all, this is a very, very important point, because medical children, medically complex kiddos, want and need safety, and that looks like familiarity for them, especially if they are on the spectrum.
Yes.
And especially if there's feeding tubes and catheters involved and bags involved and trachs involved, all of those moving parts and pieces medically. So as a caregiver, it's really important that we introduce people into the situation as quickly as possible, that we can begin to trust, because there is a trust factor there, and rely on. And in reality, it needs to be more than one other person.
Yes.
Because they get sick, right? Or something happens to them. And now what's going to happen? So for me, I lived, 3,400 miles away from my family. And as much as I could explain it to my family members, they didn't really understand until we moved here. And I've had them comment several times, we didn't realize We didn't know. And as a caregiver, you're really cautious about what you share with who, because
That's true.
you don't want to be a burden. You know, it's a mantle that you have to wear. And if they don't understand, and their well-meaning advice is well-meaning and often said in love, but they have no clue what they're saying as they give you advice. If you'll just do XYZ, I'm sure this would be solved. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you. you just have to say thank you.
Right.
Because if you try to explain it, like, I've only tried that 12 times, right? Or I've only tried 6 different other avenues along those lines, and none of those worked. And, you know, you just kind of wear yourself out. So you just begin, thank you. Thanks for that advice. Keep on going.
Yeah, you got to be careful who handle your precious cargo.
Exactly. So I was so blessed with 2 or 3 ladies that also had special needs kids. And if I needed them, one of which stepped in often. She's one of my besties, and she has 2 special needs kids. And in fact, her kids got diagnosed with autism because my daughter got diagnosed with autism. So it was highly entertaining what kept going in that little circle. As soon as Katie would get a diagnosis, they'd all go, oh, dude, yeah, my kid's exhibiting the same thing. We should probably go get ours tested. It was quite funny. So you do want some trusted people in your circle. It does take a village. There is so much truth to that. No matter who you are caregiving for, it takes a village. So to your original question, how do you take care of yourself in the middle of that? We often tell the story of you have to put your oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
True. Absolutely true. If you don't, you can't support or help anyone else. But I think I've come to a place in my life that I hate that story. Because as a caregiver, you often can't. And for me personally, let me just share my 2016 with you. In 2016, I had a growth happening on the side of one of my feet. So I was having to drive 45 minutes to a specialist several times. And at that point, most of my child's medical was kind of under control. We were going through what I called pantry cleanouts. We couldn't quite still figure out why she was continuing to have some of the gut pain, even though we knew it was celiac. She was strictly gluten-free. If that child even gets literally a crumb, we have projectile vomiting for 4 hours. So she was not a cheater diet. And so for all intents and purposes, we had hers managed. So I began to deal with my own stuff. At the time I was still married, and she was in school. So I would drive trying to get this situation under control. And it wasn't really a cyst, or it was just a swelling sack of liquid, and no one could tell me why it was happening. So then they put me in a boot. The boot led to another boot on the other foot. I'm now on 2 walking boots. I manage those 2 walking boots to fracture both my tibias. So then I'm in a wheelchair. I live in a 4-level split level house. They tell me, you need to go probably be at a hotel for a week to just give your body some downtime. So I move into a hotel for a week with my child, mind you. Still have to get her to school in the wheelchair. It was chaos. And couldn't cook, and she has allergies. So we have to make sure that we bring, a refrigerator that can hold her food. Do I have a microwave? Yeah, it was highly entertaining. And everything is an event when my child's involved. And so I get back home, and at this point I had been going to a dermatologist, and I had a number of squamous cell, basal cell items, they're called Mohs procedures, where they take the biopsy, it comes back atypical or with those squamous or basal cells. And then you have to have a procedure where there's a big cut, 12 to 18 stitches, and then you keep moving on. I was having those probably at a routine basis every 3 to 4 months, 2 to 4 of them taken off of my body. And so that summer, I had just had what I called my get naked sessions with the dermatologist in May. And then summer happened and we were doing back to school haircuts. So I used to have kind of longer hair. And so the hairdresser said, "Hey, you got a spot on your head." I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's a pretty routine location that I go to. And she goes, "Yeah, it's maybe about a quarter size." I'm like, "That's a little odd. I just was seen in May, mind you. And now we're in like the end of July." So I call the dermatologist. I can't get in for a couple of weeks. I get in kind of the end of August. And I walk in and he and I are batting back and forth. We had a very unique relationship, really good friends. And as soon as he saw my head, you could physically feel the atmosphere change. Like, sounds like the others. He goes, "So we're going to be taking a biopsy today and we'll have the results back in 72 hours. Usually it took 2 weeks. I said, "You mean 2 weeks, right?" "No, we will have the results back in 72 hours. I'm like, okay. So we were going into Labor Day weekend. And so I couldn't do anything fun because I had like this massive biopsy thing on my head, and it takes a little while to heal up. So we went to Big Reservoir and played with the kid and had a good time. And then the Tuesday after Labor Day, I'm sitting with a friend at a coffee shop, and I had been scheduled to sub at my daughter's school all week. And I get the phone call from that office, and the dermatologist receptionist says, "So we have your results. We made an appointment for you tomorrow at 4:30. I said, "Oh, I can't come this week. Like, I'm subbing all week. Like, I'm full. Like, I just can't do that." She's like, "Ma'am, I don't think you heard me. We have an appointment for you tomorrow at 4:30. Oh. Okay. Okay, I'll see you. And I, in that moment, realized I was dealing with cancer, and she didn't.
Wow.
And I went, well, if I'm going to lose my hair, I'm going to be in charge of that loss. And so I immediately called the shop of the lady who had found it, and I wanted her to shave my head. And because it's right here in the top of my head. Like,
wow.
There was no hiding it back here with long hair. Like, I was going to lose a chunk. And he had taken a spot that I would tell you is probably more like a 50-cent piece size than a quarter size. So I knew we were going to have to shave a chunk up there. I was like, that's just going to look weird. Like, that's a palm size. Like, let's just get my head. And then it'll at least all grow in together, right? So she wasn't working that day, but when her daughter ended up shaving my head, she also works at the shop. And then I handed the clippers to my daughter and said, "Hey, you want to get in on this?" And she didn't know what to do with all that. She's like, "No, I'm good."
She was like, "What?"
So the next day I'm subbing, and by the grace of God, the lady that I had been with at the coffee shop at the time that I received the call, she and her mom had made the cutest oversized brimmed hats with like ladybugs and bees on them and a zoo safari, and they'd been in a crate for years. So she takes me over to her house because I don't want to scare the kids, because now I'm bald, right? I don't know what this is going to look like after he's done with my head. So they fit my head. It was hysterical. So I have these big oversized hats for the week, because that was the week I was subbing. And so when I showed up Tuesday at 4:30, I had no hair, and he walks in, the dermatologist, and he goes, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "Well, you were going to have to shave the head anyways." He's like, "Oh, I would have just taken a palm size off." I'm like, "Well, I saved you some energy. How about that?" And he just starts laughing at me. He ends up taking 2 palm sizes off of my head.
Oh, wow.
80 stitches, and still couldn't seal it. And so I was very glad that I had the big hats to cover that head for that week. And the kids just had a ball with those hats. So to your original question, you still have to handle yourself, even in the middle of crisis, like my 2016.
Yes.
And And we still weren't done with that year. There were still some other marriage things that ended up happening that were a little chaotic. And you realize not everybody is designed and made to be a caregiver.
It's a calling. It's definitely a calling.
I would say baptism by fire, really, because you didn't ask for it. You are
No, you don't
thrust
ask
into
for
it
it, but you call to it and he give you everything you need to do it.
and
But
straight
everybody
into
is
the deep
not
end.
called to do that. But they may
Correct.
be called to assist you in it, but not do it.
And I want to encourage your audience to allow that assistance. Like,
Oh, yes. Oh,
because we
yes.
think, well, they don't know all the nuances, but here's the thing. If you teach them, they will know. And sometimes it's just a matter of you have to share it with them so they do know how to help you. And if you need them to pick up your groceries, if you call them and say, hey, I really could use a Chick-fil-A sandwich, I really could use, my chai tea, they would be willing to do that for you, but they don't know how to help you. And so I had people say to me, hey, we really want to bring you a meal, but we don't know what your kid can eat. I didn't know enough then to be able to say, hey, I will send you verbatim what to tell Chick-fil-A, and that would be amazing, and bring it.
Right.
And so I want to encourage your audience to empower yourselves with your voice, because they do want to help you. People do want to show up for you. They just don't know how. Now, it is a mental load on you to get someone to help you in the way and capacity that you can receive that doesn't cause more harm.
Right.
It does come on your shoulders as a mental
Mhm.
load. And I'm sorry for that. I am.
It does, yes. Because, but yeah, I remember when I took care of my mom, I built, I have, it's 8 of us, and as far as, my siblings, it's 8 of us. And I never forget, a doctor told me don't play the martyr because, when you take on this task, you're a little territorial. But one of the things that God showed me how to do that was to utilize their gifts that they have. And really I really sat down and met with them and said, hey, what can you do? And whatever they can do, when they chose to do what they wanted to do, they did it was effortless because it was something from their heart, not
Exactly.
something I chose for them to do. And it was a team effort. And then it gave all of us a chance to not be robbed of like, oh, you didn't take care of mom. But I think people think they have to take on the whole burden. But I like how you said, take, give them, let them know what you need so they can choose what they can do for you because every little bit helps. Oh my God, every little bit helps when you're a caregiver. And speaking of that, you know, um, speaking of that with your practice, what is your onboarding process for clients?
So right now, I just launched a program. It's 100 Women, 100 Days, Healing the Past with Hope That Lasts. And it's designed for women to come into, and it is for women, and really understanding what they need to release for themselves in order to restore for themselves and relaunch themselves, even in the midst of the medical crisis that they're experiencing. And I set it up because medical mom warriors don't have time, right? As much as we'd love for them to be on a 45-minute podcast, and as much as we'd love for them to come visit us for 3 days and be this immersive experience, they don't have that kind of time. And so how could I help serve them with the isolation, which is building community to combat that,
Yes.
which is giving them tools for tips, resources, financial help to support them in those missing deficits that they have as caregivers. And then also healing their heart of the medical gaslighting, of the bullying that's received, of
Oh, goodness
understanding
gracious.
how to be good advocates. What does that actually mean?
Mhm.
And again, getting rid and healed of the things that have kept them stuck is the release part. So each day we're working on one thing.
Oh,
Today,
that's nice.
let's release guilt. And that's not flippantly. Let's really identify, what does that mean? And the whole
Yeah,
point
because
of
that is part of what they go through. Yeah, mentally, yes.
Oh, it is. And, for my kiddo, we actually can tie a number of her diagnoses back to her dad, who is a military member, received multiple rounds of the anthrax shot. And so there's actually a direct correlation to some of the things that she has. So, and he had it before we got pregnant. So when you think about that, there's a lot of guilt there.
Oh, yeah.
On
I
her
can only imagine.
she's mad at the military because they gave her dad those shots and then he gave it to her, right? So like there's this ongoing,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, the processing, it's intense and it goes deep. But I designed it so each person could work at their own pace, but within the same community.
Okay.
So we're meeting weekly check-ins on Mondays. We're doing heart healing sessions where we're looking at, okay, Lord, show us one memory, one moment that we felt neglected, unseen, invisible, dismissed, gaslit, right? And then show us how to switch that over, how to process those feelings out so we can heal and we can walk forward in it. So each day there's one on regret, one on unmet expectations, medical trauma, gaslighting. There's about 33 days in the release section, and then about 33 to 40 days in the restore section.
Okay.
Where we want to restore the heart. We want to restore the mind. We want to restore the identity of who they truly are. And you asked that question earlier as what's your identity, right? And for me, it's in Jesus. And that really should be for all of us. Our labels, the diagnoses, even the term caregiver is not our identity.
Exactly.
And it's a moment in
Those
time.
are roles that we play, but not our identity.
It's a hat, lots of hats, right? But those hats can come off, they can go on, they can come off, go on. And so, I want to help support them in realizing those are hats and those are roles and those are not the identity. And God has the say that you are royal, that you are chosen, you are a masterpiece, right? And you have calling, you have gifts, you have talent, you have abilities that are designed with you and only you in mind. Nobody else on this planet can do what we need you to do, right? And so in doing that, I've got the sun. I'm steady like going, what is happening? And so
I know how that could be.
I'm just like, okay, I have the light on. I have all this. I'm like, why is the sun coming through? What is happening? So then the last part, the third pillar is that relaunching, because we want to relaunch you, not just in the core identity that you really have, but also to dream again. Because as caregivers, and you know this firsthand, you lay down everything in your life to be a caregiver.
Yes.
That includes your dreams, your hopes,
your
expectations for your own life. I never expected to be a medical mom warrior. I actually had to lay down my PhD dreams. I had gotten into a program for a PhD when I had my car accident. I couldn't remember my name. There's no way I was going to remember a PhD level of work, right?
Right.
But later I went back, I got my master's, and from there I've been teaching ever since. And so what you think you are going to do hasn't been lost. It might be reshaped. It might have a different quality and depth to it. I never, ever went to school to teach, and I've been teaching since I went to college. It's like crazy how, those things happen. So that's one way that I work with the moms. And then I also have a customized roadmap for them where we sit together for 90 minutes, bring your tea or your coffee, and I'll bring my chai, and let's get to the heart. We're not there to talk about the weather. Like, let's dive into what is going on with them firsthand. Let's hear it. I've got about 400 tools that my kiddo and I have accumulated along the way that I know serve amazing purposes for families.
Right.
And so we can help them develop a game plan of what tools would serve you the best.
Awesome. My final question before we wrap up. If you could speak directly to the moms that you are talking about that need this awesome program, that's listening right now, exhausted, on the edge of, on the edge of giving up, what empowering message do you want to leave with them so that they can take your call to action?
Hope is not lost. It is still there. It might feel hidden. It might feel like you're walking in the valley full time in the darkness, but you aren't. You are never alone. And there are other moms like myself and so many others who totally understand your pain right now, your loss of expectations, your isolation, your pulling out your hair, the survival rate, the lack of sleep, of sleeping on the benches in the rooms, because why hospitals can't figure out how to get a decent supportive bed for caregivers, I have no idea, right? Like there's just a few little things that you could do to take care of us.
There, right?
Right? It's like, this is my kid, I'm not going anywhere. And so we get it. You are not alone. And that hope that I'm talking about comes from knowing that even if I couldn't be there, or if Martha couldn't be there, or if somebody else that you know as a medical mom couldn't be there, you still are always surrounded by the one who created you and by the one who knew this was not going to be a surprise for your life. He knew. And I don't have all the answers of why it happens. I don't have the answers of why my kid has 25 diagnoses. I don't. I wish I did. But what I do know is it has empowered me to help people like you and your audience to find other opportunities in the middle of their pain, in the middle of their medical crisis, in the middle of their trauma, and to strengthen their voice in one of the worst moments that they're probably having in their entire life. And that hope is what will sustain you. It sustained me when my child didn't feel anything from the waist down for 9 months. It has sustained me when I would wake up and have no idea what my name is. It has sustained me to the point where I was told I would never, ever be a mom. It has sustained me when my daughter at 19 had to have a hysterectomy, and my thought of being a grandma was going to be taken away forever. And it sustains me because I know in the 6th grade, God said I would be a grandma. So I'm just over here going, well, okay, well, it won't be for my kid naturally, but God, you got it, right? Because I've seen him show up over and over and over and over again. And the more that you allow him to show up for you, the more you're going to find it and see it and recognize it faster and faster and faster.
Amen. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and your journey, your complex journey with the audience. And to the audience, thank you so much for listening. If you know a mom who's struggling with feeling like unseen or feel exhausted and need this program, please do share this video with them. I will have Crystal's links so you can actually connect with her. And also, just continue to subscribe, share, and comment. Subscribe because I always have amazing guests. Thank you so much for listening. Happy Monday and enjoy your day.
It's your time to shine.